So let's say you have a regular keyboard, but you'd like to have a keyguard for it. Well, here's how to print those and design them so that they'll actually fit. And there's Lucy, who has been helping me with this project. So just go ahead and Google Volkswitch keyboard keyguard, and you're going to want to click on Keyguard for a PC keyboard. That will get you to this website, and kind of familiarize yourself with the steps. You don't have to go super in depth, but just read through and get a basic grasp of what all needs to be done. Then just Google OpenSCAD, and then you're going to want to download this 3D model program. This is what OpenSCAD looks like. It's not as confusing as it looks. The only panel you need to pay attention to is this one on the right. And the website will tell you how to set up some of these tabs so that you get the right size and layout for your keyguard. The next thing that you need to do is actually measure each of the individual keys on your physical keyboard and then enter those values here into a text file. And this text file is linked to the OpenSCAD model, so the measurements that you put into this text file get automatically propagated on your model here in real time. And if OpenSCAD ever gives you an error when you're doing this, it's very likely that all you did was just did a typo in one of these lists. So look through and maybe there's an extra comma or a period or some missing data or some numbers that aren't quite right. And if you get rid of that, it'll fix the problem. That happened to me 2 or 3 times, but don't panic if it throws you some kind of an error. It's just a typo. And if this is satisfactory, what you can do is render it. So you'll want to click on the Design tab, scroll down to Render. Click on that and it will finish this model for you. And it'll make that noise when it's done rendering. And that means that it's ready to go. You can export it. Is to go to the File tab and hit the Export button, and then export as STL. And that will have it save this model as an STL file that you can then open in your 3D print software. Here's what that file that you just created and exported from OpenSCAD looks like when it's opened in your 3D print software. Yeah, any size diameter nozzle, print face down if possible. I'm using just standard PLA for this, and I changed my infill density up to 99. This keyguard I designed to be a little thicker than 3 millimeters. But if you wanted to resize that, like a lot of keyguards are 4 to 5 millimeters thick, you can easily do that. Simply select the model and then click the resize tool. This allows you to adjust the width, height, and depth of this model. We're going to want to deselect uniform scale so that we can select these parameters individually. And what we want to do is make this keyguard thicker. So instead of 3 millimeters, let's make it 5. And then you might be able to see when I click enter, it actually physically gets a little bit bigger on screen. And so that's a way that you can easily make these thicker or thinner depending on the needs of the person. If the openings for each key themselves are not right, then you would need to go back to your OpenSCAD process, adjust some of these measurements, and re-export it as a different STL file that has, the proper sized openings. But now that we have our keyguard, it's at a good thickness, the openings all look right, we'll actually want to print this to test it out. Now, unfortunately, most 3D printers, and mine included, aren't wide enough to print this all in one go. So what you'll actually have to do is chop that up into 3 parts. So here's what it looks like chopped up into 3 parts. And I'll print each of these parts separately and then glue them together. I've also created these little shims here that I will use on the edges to kind of help bond the plastic a little bit more and make it hopefully less able to break and snap apart in the future. And so here's how to split this keyguard up so that you can print it on a smaller build plate. The first thing I want to do though is flip this upside down. So I'm going to have it lay on its face. And so that way it's going to print upside down. And so the part that your fingers are going to touch will actually be the first layer that's put down by the machine. And usually that makes it very smooth and consistent, that first layer, and it'll be a lot nicer to touch. So I just flipped it upside down, and now I want to cut it. So the way I cut it is select it and then use my separating tool. Now I need to rotate it 90 degrees and then grab it and move it using the yellow block. And so my printer is pretty small, so I do a cut here and then like a cut over here and print it in 3 parts. Your printer is probably bigger, maybe you could just get away with 1 cut. But when you find the spot you want, you just select keep orientation and perform cut. And bang, you've got two distinct parts now that you can print separately and glue together. Go ahead then slice this part that you want to print and then hit print to send it to your 3D printer. Bond the parts together using just universal super glue. I glued some of these shims to the cracks just to make it more solidified. And then since I already had the keyboard measured and input into the software, I decided I would just print a few of these to give the person a little bit more flexibility. So I printed 3. One of them is 2 millimeters thick, one of them is 3 millimeters thick, and one of them is 4 millimeters thick. On the underside, I took some mounting tape and just put a few strips of that, so if they wanted to do a more permanent stick, they could use that mounting tape.